Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have started African tour that took him to Angola and yesterday to Zambia, and after this to Mozambique. While to shed more light on the importance of his visit to these three African countries, we have the pleasure to have this phone with Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Ain Shams University. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Dr. Youmn, now the President is visiting three African countries. During his visit, he is also going to attend the COMESA meetings, and Egypt is going to hand over the presidency to Zambia. A very busy schedule. Actually, for the President. Give us your insight concerning the importance of the President activities.
Indeed, it's a very important visit since Egypt started, to take care quite well about our relation as Egypt with the African continent. We know quite well that the importance of such relation, and during the presidency of Egypt to the African Union, Egypt exerted very important efforts toward, specifying the visionary approach for the development of the continent, specifying challenges confronting the continent as being exploited by other countries and multinationals, and not being directing their resources towards more investment for the benefit of people in the continent. And from here it comes the importance that the vision of 2063, and we have another vision of 2030, is aiming towards the industrialization of the continent, taking care of youth, empowering youth and women, and enhancing investment in different fields, on top of them industry, as I mentioned, and information technology.
Yes.
And the occasion of the visit of President El-Sisi is quite important, since COMESA is representing a very important free trade area in the African continent.
Yes.
And it proved to be successful during the last period, as the size of trade has enhanced, intra-trade has enhanced to large extent. And as our relation as Egypt, economic relation with COMESA, we have very good economic relations with COMESA. COMESA can be represented as a free trade area in which Egypt is achieving surplus in its balance of trade, which means that what we are exporting is more what we are importing, and the size of trade of Egypt approaching $3.7 billion, which means that this is quite important for Egypt. And nowadays, as you mentioned, Egypt had the presidency of COMESA during this period, and the President El-Sisi, the most important thing is going to do is to hand over presidency for COMESA. I believe that by handing over, you should, specify the activities that have been done and the visionary approach towards what should be done for the coming period, as accelerating economic relations regarding not only trade, because still the free trade areas in the African continent is concentrating mainly on trade to some extent, neglecting investment. And investment nowadays becoming major in order to achieve a better economic growth, because investment is generating opportunities for employment, and the continent is suffering from very high rate of unemployment, specifically unemployment of youth and women. And this is the importance of this occasion.
Yes, so Dr. Hamaki, now you spoke of the importance of the summit and the focus and the means of boosting development efforts and economic integration among the bloc member states. So, but during the year-long presidency of Egypt to the COMESA, Egypt sought to deepen industrial integration, as you've mentioned, and also to enhance investments in the infrastructure, in addition to boosting regional supply chains among the bloc members of the African countries, the members. So how do you evaluate the efforts by Egypt, or evaluate the year-long that Egypt have the performance, I mean?
Actually, Egypt has exerted efforts towards addressing the main challenges confronting development in the continent. On top of them, peace and combating terrorism, we have, harmonized our efforts and exchanging information regarding how to restore peace and, combat terrorism, since peace can be regarded as a precondition for any development. So this is part. Another part is by developing the capabilities of youth, and Egypt, has done several efforts towards upgrading skills of African and meeting youth. All our forums for youth that have been done towards discussing the most important challenges confronting development and the opportunities as well to achieve development in the continent. We invited large part of African youth and women to discuss that with us and to have like a holistic approach towards how we can cooperate together for achieving more opportunities of job for our youth and upgrading their skills. So this is another part of the story. What has been done during this visit is organizing B2B meeting, and this is quite important. Actually, I attended several meetings like that in China. This is one of the mechanisms that China has used in order to, enhance investment there. When you organize B2B, it means that businessmen and women in both sides, they are gathering, they are discussing what are the mutual opportunities of investment and how they can contemplate each other towards, maximizing, using the value chain and benefiting from a comparative advantage in different African countries. And this is the crux of any economic integration. How you can use your comparative advantage in a cooperative way so that you can be a part of the international value chain. And by that you are adding, and by that you are gaining more, not being just exporting your raw materials and importing the manufactured and the finished goods. And I believe that this B2B should be a cornerstone towards enhancing infra investment, and by that you can generate opportunities of jobs. Still, one of the challenge is methods of finance. And I believe these methods of finance have been discussed. Nowadays, we have a big challenge, which is increasing interest rate by developed countries, and this is making developing countries in a situation the cost of finance is increasing substantially, besides the burden of external debt. And I believe this topic has been discussed in several forums, including G7 and G20. And nowadays, we have to work hard towards, generating opportunities of finance for developing countries.
Yes, Dr. Hamaki, also how was Egypt able to overcome the obstacles that hinder the movement of trade between the African countries through the past year?
Yes, this is a very important question, and I believe that Egypt also has made very important efforts toward knowing better the African market and specifying what are the most important types of investment that can be done. And I believe that we need more to facilitate environment We need more to activate, companies working in marketing. We need to address bureaucracy more and corruption. I believe that we need to offer opportunities for small business to have opportunities for producing for export. All these challenges and obstacles have been identified several times, and nowadays we are working hard towards addressing such challenges. I believe that we have a very important opportunity nowadays towards, addressing our problems, taking into consideration the, challenges confronting the world economy, generally speaking, the polarization, geopolitical, challenges confronting the world economy nowadays actually is letting us moving more towards regional integration, and the African continent should play a significant role for that. And I believe that such visits are quite important to discuss opportunities, challenges, and try to pave the way towards more economic integration for the benefit of the people in the continent.
Yes, Dr. Hamaki, how does the President El-Sisi's African tour highlights the importance of the economic integration between the African countries?
President Sisi actually is emphasizing in his visit to large extent, agreements that can be done between Egypt and different African continents. As it has been mentioned in the speeches during the visit, that the African continent would like to benefit from our experiences. We have very good experiences in addressing health challenges, taking into consideration Egypt nowadays is about to declare a country without virus C, and we exerted very good efforts. We have exerted efforts towards, medicine industry, and we have, and Egypt actually has managed quite well during COVID-19. To address the pandemic properly, and Egypt can be considered as one of the most successful countries doing that, taking into consideration or balancing between production and taking care of the health of people. So this experience can be actually transferred into the African continent. Our experience in mega projects and infrastructure, we have done quite well regarding infrastructure, and nowadays we are building, we are taking care of very large projects in the African continent. We have big names, multinational, from Egypt to work for infrastructure, and we gained experience in ports, in developing ports. So Egypt is having a lot of experiences. We have experiences in information technology. All this experience can be transferred into the continent, building capabilities, on a win-win situation, so that we can activate, the human resources in the continent, upgrading their capabilities, so that, we can enhance productivity. This is quite important from economic side. Productivity of the African continent is still quite minimal. The contribution of the African continent in the international value chain is still minimal. As the latest statistic mentioned, it's only 14% compared to the EU countries approaching 40%. So we are not at all as African continent participating in the value chain, international value chain. And all these challenges need a lot of work to be done and harmonized effort to be orchestrated for, upgrading and enhancing investment towards being more important and more contributing in the world economy.
Yes, Dr. Hamaki, how does the COMESA meeting would address the current global economic challenges that is facing not only the African countries, the whole world, the whole countries around the world?
Actually, despite what happened in COVID and the Russian-Ukrainian war, still we are, as countries of the world, we are in deep need for each other, which means the interdependence, which is the core of globalization, is still with us. Despite it could change its, speed, or it could change its presentation or interpretation towards more regionalization versus globalization. We still need each other's. We have the problems of the climate change that need harmonization efforts. We have other problems, but our experience as economists and researchers proves that you have to rely on yourself, not just waiting for other countries or support or financial aid, because you are owning resources. What you have to do is how to use your resources efficiently enough. And I believe that we have to rely on ourselves. We have to depend on ourselves towards developing our countries for the benefit of our people. We have the largest share of poverty in Africa, and the economic empowerment of poor can be regarded as the only way for us towards, transferring poor into economic power. And I believe we have all resources necessary to do that. What we need is, planning and, cooperation among each other. And this is what Egypt actually is taking the responsibility of, working hard with our partners in the African countries towards having, mutual benefit and enhancing our cooperation on economic side. And it's quite important here to mention that the continent is moving towards the large free trade area in the whole continent, and we are about to accelerate the speed of moving towards a free trade area for the whole African continent. Still, we need to work hard towards specifying what are the requirements to achieve that, and what we have to work in order to activate such cooperation.
Yes, Dr. Hamaki, how did Egypt benefit from the trade agreements that were signed between Egypt and the African countries, as well as the economic blocs of the continent, such as the COMESA agreement and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement?
Actually, Egypt, as I mentioned, is having a balance of trade, a positive balance of trade with COMESA. And can be regarded as, for analysis, it can be regarded as a very important opportunity for Egypt to enhance trade, as well as we have our companies, they are working in the African continent, having a lot of potentiality for infrastructure, for a big project like dams, building dams in Senegal, and so. So I believe that the African continent is presenting huge opportunities for Egypt towards a better economic development, exportation, by having outsourcing for different activities. But the issue is that in order to work on a win-win situation, we need to, like the EU countries, they, planned as a one country. The problem that we need to plan, the African continent should plan its economic growth as a one country, not as country by country. And when you do that, you are going to exploit your resources according to the comparative advantage. And by here, you can enhance investment and trade at the same time. And by here, you can, when you represent yourself, you are representing yourself as a real continent having potentialities and exceeding the speed of industrialization, improving the capacity for your personnel and human beings for a better economic growth. So we need to work harder than that in order to achieve what we are dreaming about.
Yes, so Dr. Hamaki, the kind of exports that Egypt exports to the African continent, the most prominent Egyptian exports to the African continent, which includes construction materials,
Yes.
chemical products, fertilizers, food industries, engineering and electronic goods and medicines. So give us an idea about this, please.
This, what you have mentioned, is quite important about the structure of our exportation to the African continent. What is important about that is that we have a very important comparative advantage in the African continent, and this trade actually is for the benefit of both countries, because Egypt can export such products that Africa is in deep need for that, with prices reasonable prices for the African continent. So it's a very good opportunity for both sides. And this is actually, the benefit of the free trade area, is that you can export products that you have a comparative advantage and import from other countries. And by that, you are accelerating production and opportunities of job and opportunities and GDP growth, so what we need to do is to specify what shall be done in order to accelerate the size of trade. What are the requirements to do that? We still, we need to harmonize our economic policies. Still, we are not working quite well towards harmonizing economic, policies, fiscal policy, monetary policy. We need actually to specify the rules of origin for the continent, so that we can guarantee a fair trade among all the countries of the African continent. Still a lot of work should be done, and I believe since the continent has declared a free trade area, efforts haven't been accelerated quite well towards achieving that. And from here it comes, this is a very good opportunity to discuss what are the obstacles preventing us from moving ahead towards, a better performance regarding the free trade area of the country.
Yes, we are going to have a short break, Dr. Youmn, and we are going to be back with you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a short break, and we are going to be back with Dr. Youmn Hamaki.